Hello.
Yeah.
I think we hear you. You can start.
Okay. There was a slight confusion anyway. We are starting the meeting. So here we have today Dr. Jawad Zarbakhsh. He's an Austrian technology leader and a career coach, mentor. And at the same time, he's the president and founder of Cademix Institute of Technology. And he's also a professor of computer-aided design, engineering, and manufacturing. So today, we just wanted to, you know, brief you about the career acceleration programs with regard to a particular skill that you have earned already in your engineering or a computer science, other science degrees, and so on. So now let me invite Mr. Jawad to brief about the session and about the entire program overview.
Thank you, Mr. Joby, for this nice introduction. If you hear me, just give me a sign. Maybe some of you can raise your hand or something so that I can see you hear me. Hopefully you hear me. Okay, perfect. Hopefully. Okay, I saw that a few people raised their hand. Very good. As I said, yeah, my name is Jawad, and I'm originally from Iran. I moved to Europe 17, 18 years ago to do my PhD in the area of computational physics. And maybe just a little bit short introduction, what I did. I was working in different kind of industries, in automotive industry, in semiconductor physics industry, in computer related topics. And for the last 10 years, I was the professor at the Corente University of Applied Science. This was something that I did it during that time. About 2 years ago, actually, we started Cademix, and this was a necessity that was required basically as a result of the discussion with many people who want to be successful in Europe. So at the moment, we have Cademix, and I'm very happy that Mr. Joby organized this webinar. I'm going to talk about the current situation. This corona situation that we are in is basically changing the world, changing many careers, and basically changing a lot of businesses. Lots of business models are changing, and we are going to talk a little bit about that. And after a short introduction on my side, of course, you are welcome to ask your questions. Okay. I will start with a very known statistics that is totally known for you. If you see that here, these are the current number of the coronavirus. This is something that I don't need to say it. You're totally aware of the number of the people who are at the moment infected by corona and the lockdown in all of the countries. Now, the point is that the situation of the coronavirus is not the same in all countries. Some of the countries, they had it a little bit earlier. Some of the countries, they took it more serious. And in Europe, even just take a look at Europe, we have the countries like Italy and Spain, like southern countries. They have totally different way of reacting to the crisis in compared to the Central European countries. The difference, of course, is clear. The difference is mostly related to the kind of structural, governmental structural, the authority of the government, and of course related to discipline of the people. It is a little bit included in their in the culture. So basically all of the southern states in Europe, including the Italy, Spain, and partly France, they couldn't basically manage the situation very well, while we have a different situation in Germany and in Austria. Now I want to go to the very specific graphs that you probably know that very well. This is the number of the active cases in different countries. Now, if you take a look at, for example, in India, since many of you are at the moment coming from India, I would like to talk about this number of active cases in India. You see that here, this number of active cases is exponentially increasing. We don't need to be so intelligent to understand the current situation and how the things will move on during the next few weeks and so on. Now, the situation in the United States is also like this, that it started with some sort of exponential start in the beginning. This is the number of active cases, but the number of active cases is basically saturating to some numbers, which means that this is still a problem exists, but the problem is that it will not be worsened than what is it. Of course, the situation will be worse over the time. Now, I want to bring you to the two other curves that comes from Germany and Austria. So this is the curve that you see that in Germany, the number of active cases are reducing, and in Austria, the number of the active cases are highly reducing since almost 6 weeks ago. Okay, so you see that here, basically Austria already passed the peak, and we are more than 6 weeks in the post-corona time, if you can call it. The Germany is already, can you say that, a couple of weeks in the post-corona time. But United States is not even reached the peak, okay? And India is still far away from that. So from that point of view, it is totally understandable that the situation in Austria is well under control, and the economy will be more open to start toward the new employment and new opening. We just heard that a couple of weeks ago that some of the businesses, even small businesses and so on, are basically opening again. And this opening again opens up lots of opportunities for the people to find a job. Now, the problem still exists. Many of the companies who want to open into new wave of employment, they are still afraid to employ the people, because most of the graduates or most of the experts coming from different countries, they are most of the cases focused on a specific area of expertise. So let me give you some examples. There are lots of people who have expertise in mechanical engineering, electronic engineering, or computer science. And if you tell them, what can you do? They usually answer with a few list of things related to their topic. While the real industry, they need multidisciplinary people. A newborn company, just like a company that gets out of the crisis, they don't have budget to employ 5 people for the mechanical engineering, design, 3D printing, management, marketing, and so on. It doesn't work like this. The new economy basically works like this, that whatever study that you have done, whatever expertise you have, you always need to have multiple expertise. So in several ways, you need to be an added value to the company or the future or even a university you want to be there. So basically, if you are a mechanical engineer, you also need to know a little bit about the management and maybe working in the lab. If you are a computer scientist, you need to know about the digital marketing. If you are from digital marketing, you need to know a little bit about sales and the other topics. Maybe you also need to know how to present the things, so you also can be included in the education part. So basically, at the moment, the current industry in Europe requires all of the people, I'm just repeating that, all of the people to be multidisciplinary. If you are not multidisciplinary, it doesn't work. This is certainly 100% sure about the situation after the corona. Even before the corona was like this. I mean, it's not like this that the Europe was single disciplinary and so on. It was never like this. But the point is that at the moment, during the current situation, the number of the companies that require multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and transdisciplinary fields, they are increasing. Basically, there are also governmental funds to help the companies to become interdisciplinary. Almost everybody needs to know the basic things, just like as you know how to work with a mobile phone and so on. You need to know lots of things related to the internet, setting up the marketing campaign, setting up the digital marketing, knowing the things about the social media marketing. So basically, it doesn't help if you are expert in one field. You need to be interdisciplinary, and that is one of the major focus of Cademix. Basically, Cademix starts based on this concept. So let me minimize this window and start with another window that you see, that hopefully you see that there is another window is shown in my background here. So basically, Cademix is a combination of 6 business sectors. Not every business sector is probably relevant to this discussion today, but I'm just quickly go through the details of these 6 business sectors that we have. We have a sector related to education. We have a sector related to the career development and the matchmaking, basically for those people who are searching for a job or want to start their business in Europe. We have also a research and development and the European corporations that we have in Europe. We have an ICT and engineering services. On that side, we have 2 business licenses related to ICT topics and related to science and physics topics. So on that side, we offer services to the companies, probably not so much related to the topic today. We also have our own animation studios and we have our own digital marketing. Now, all together, this builds an innovation cycle. An innovation cycle is basically starting from an education and goes to career development, research and development, innovation and services, maybe some marketing activities and sales. And in between, of course, the social media and new marketing, new multimedia methods is also a part of that. This is something that you need to know. So it doesn't matter where you are in this cycle, you need to have the full cycle. Many people asking me whether they should go to a normal university, a traditional university, or they should go to an online education. So the answer is very clear. Whether this system is online or whether this is on campus or whether this is traditional or not, the main question is like this. Does it offer you a full innovation cycle or not? If it doesn't offer you a full innovation cycle, it means that at the end of the day, you are only focusing on the education. And then you cannot find the way from the education to the real industry. So that's actually the main problem of traditional universities. Here in Europe, the European Commission, which is actually, I'm also a part of the several committee meetings in European level. If you want to have some information about that, it's just very easy. You can just search my name and you can just search here in Google with the cost action, for example, related to solar and so on. You will find lots of these European actions and so on. You can take a look at them. This information is totally available anyway. Okay, so this information basically shows the committees that we give the consulting to the European Commission in the field of decision making. So I'm just going to mute one of the Apple participants that's making noise. Sorry for that. Yeah. So Mr. Joby, maybe you can also take care of this. Somebody is really making noise in the background. I don't know which person is that because I see everybody.
It's muted.
Ah, okay, thank you. Yeah, this European commissions that are available are usually part of the European Commission, and it's called European Cooperation in Science and Technology. For example, here you see that there are people in the management committee and people usually member of that from every member state of Europe. You see that, of course, our name is also in the industrial perspective and so on. Basically, we give this support to the European Commission for decision making and basically allocation of the budget across the different states. We are currently trying to force all of the universities to move more into direction of the industry. So basically the traditional universities traditionally started to do the education and only education, whether this was only in the classroom or online, doesn't matter. This education in many cases was not really relevant to industry. So basically people learn something in the classroom or online, doesn't matter, in the laboratories and so on, but they cannot use it because the industry doesn't need, they usually don't need it. I mean, I'm talking to you, you're sitting in India, you probably understand this stuff more than me. You probably know that there are lots of universities offering courses. This has not really changed since ages. I mean, they're teaching courses from the books and so on. That's, you never know that was it really a requirement of 20 years ago, or this is the real requirement of the industry. So from that perspective, we are trying to do some kind of revolution, or let's say smooth evolution, you can call it, to make a change of the universities so that the universities go into direction of the industry. So the gap between the university and industry is getting low. So the education is on one side, research and development and innovation is on the other side. The gap is still there. So at Cademix, we try to bridge this gap by having a focus, a clear focus on these topics. Of course, we offer this as a kind of service to different people, depending whether the people want to find a job in Europe so that we can guarantee a job and secure a job for them, or whether these people wants to start a company in Europe. So the track is a little bit different. So depending on what usually the people want to do, we might choose different methods. The good advantage of Cademix here is that we offer this as a personalized pathway to every individual. So basically, if we have two people coming from mechanical engineering or computer science, the two people, they have the same education. Each of them, they will receive different projects. And this is something which is different. Because when it comes to finding a job, what really counts is the uniqueness that improves your employability. If you are not unique, you are just like any other 500 people that apply for a job. And certainly the human resources, they just filter and say, okay, from these 500 people applied for this job, we're just going to somehow filter them away. If you are unique, always you have the chance to get into interviews and show yourself as a unique person. A unique person who has the multidisciplinary expertise in several fields is basically has the huge chance during post-corona time. Okay, I think that this was a nice or short introduction for you. And right now I'm available to have some discussion. I think we should more focus on the questions from your side. If you have any question related to these topics that I mentioned, or generally to have question about the different topic, of course, I'm available to continue discussion. So Mr. Joby, the microphone is back to you.
I think already some two people have raised the hand. Maybe they can let you in. And then Anya Syriac.
Meanwhile, I can also show you the list of our career center options, because many people are starting asking what kind of options are basically available when somebody wants to join Cademix. Basically, the number of the options is relatively unlimited, of course, assuming that the people are related to the topics and so on that we have. But basically, the options that we have start from the short sessions related to a few hours, because many people, they only need initial help, like ignition. And once they have it, they know what to do. Okay, so we have a program starting from 2 hours up to a program that takes usually a year, or maybe about 6 months to 1 year. So if the people, they want us to find a job for them, of course, it takes some time. It takes usually in the range of 6 months to find a job for them. But the path to find a job and secure a job for the people goes through learning some options, doing some project, getting certification. And by the way, we are a certifying body so that we can give the certification to the people, to the organization, to the products. This is something that we have. Of course, again, I say that certification that we can give is limited to our fields related to the computer related topics and physics and science, basically engineering and science. If a person is interested in having a career upgrade in that direction, of course, we can help them and even we can secure it. Okay.
Hello.
I hear somebody said hello.
Yeah. Actually, I'm Anil Kumar. Thanks a lot for your nice session. I'm staying currently in Germany. Okay, so I am about to finish my master in business administration. Mm-hmm. And I did master in mechanical engineering from India. Mm-hmm. So I have 5 years of experience in teaching, not in industry. I was working in Indian Universities and Ethiopia also. I worked 2 years. Mm-hmm. So now I want to shift I want to change my field, and I want to go as a mechanical design engineer. So what are the possibility in Europe for a person like me? Because I don't have industrial experience, I have teaching experience, and but I have good mechanical knowledge, and now I did MBA also. So what are the chances? Can you please explain?
Yeah, I heard you. I hope that other people also heard you well. So basically, the question is that you have 5 years of teaching experience. You have experience of working or studying in Germany, and you also have experience of mechanical engineering and MBA. So the current situation is like this, that if you are a graduate of let's say a technical topic, and you do an MBA, this is not really well seen in the Central Europe, because MBA is something that should usually come after experience. So it's a little bit of inconsistency in your CV. So as a kind of, let's say, human resource or a hiring manager, the first thing I will point to your CV to say how it is possible that you have an MBA without having an industrial experience. So this is something like a missing link in your CV. In most of the cases, people usually expect that you do a technical topic, you do have a few years of experience, and then after that, you go for an MBA. Basically, MBA in Europe is more wanted after some years of experience. So more senior people go to the MBA. But it is totally okay that you have right now an MBA, but the missing link is still there. So the experience, industrial experience, a few internship is missing. So what we can usually do, we also did it for the other people from India who have a little amount of experience, is that at the same time you need to do some industrial relevant training and industrial relevant project. Basically, you can go and talk with some industries to employ you or just give you some trainings. Okay, we can also do that, but generally you can go to any industry and ask them for a training program. Or better than that would be to do some industry relevant project. Basically, you can do that by your own if you have a good, let's say, total understanding and overview of what industry requires. But in most of the cases, you really need to have a real direct connections with an industry. If you have this in your CV, then you don't have that much of problem. Talking about the mechanical engineer, there are lots of companies at the moment who have been traditional mechanical, so-called, you know, that you're in Germany, traditional Maschinenbauer and so on. These companies, during this Corona time, they realized that they need to move more into the direction of the computer. So you should not be worried about that. Maybe at the moment there is a freeze because of the Corona and so on. But after that, the people already, they know that they need to move more into the direction of the computer and so on. So going from the computer side of the mechanical engineering and also on the MBA, I mean, general MBA probably is not going to help you. Maybe something like a agile project management, computer aided management and so on will also help you a lot. So basically, if you have some training with one thing, you can basically reach 2-3 goals. So I hope that I gave you the answer. So just do the training and wait. And basically, you can in parallel apply for the jobs. There are huge chances in that. Of course, you can do that by yourself. There are lots of hidden jobs available. If you want, we can also help you.
Okay, so actually, for example, if I want to take a training in computer management, stuff like that. So do you know that how to take that training? What are the institute providing training or any online platform for that?
Basically, I can open the that topic that you just mentioned. You need to consider the organization that offering you project-based, I repeat, project-based training. Okay, so it's not about education. You already have good enough education. So if you see that here on my screen, I'm just going to open a topic related to industrial agile project management. These are the major topics that you need to learn. Basically, a traditional MBA, you're just talking about, you know, that all of this related to work breakdown, structure, economy, and all of these theoretical things. This is not going to help you. We're talking about the real project management, practical industrial project management. So if you take a look at this program that we have, industrial and agile project management, at least the minimum thing, I mean, you don't need to register for this program, but the only thing you need to take care of that is the list of the topics that are mentioned here. Okay, just go ahead and take a look at the syllabus and try to pick up some project related to these topics. I think this is going to be helping you, but make sure that you are doing project based. Otherwise, the theoretical part is not really going to help you a lot.
Yeah. Actually, I'm doing this BA NX training also, and I did one internship in Bosch in Germany.
Very good, very good.
Yeah, so that internship is in CAD designing field. So I went to Siemens NX also to fill my, you know, in gap what you are talking about.
Very good, very good. So once you have this training, you need to just well documented in your CV, and then you need to have the connection to the real employers who are searching for people like you. Of course, there are jobs available announced online. There are jobs that are not announced online. You know, that these kind of hidden jobs. We have articles about this kind of hidden jobs. At the moment, there are lots of hidden jobs. About 80–90% of the jobs at the moment are usually hidden jobs. Basically, this job doesn't go online. Try to get access to that. Try to initiate the employment, and of course you need to also get help to people. You need to kind of support. Try to find some professors, maybe some industrial expert, to find some good recommendation letters for you, maybe to having like a 5 to 10 recommendation letters in different fields. Having a few certification related to the project will help you a lot. So by having that, certainly you can be successful on that side. I hope that was the answer.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thanks a lot for your
answer.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, I hear you. You said hello. Hello.
Electronics. And due to some problems, I came back to Singapore and I completed. So, hello.
I'm sorry, I have a little bit of difficulty to hear you. I just heard a few words like electronics, return back, completed. These are the words that I heard. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the rest of that. Maybe you can just repeat it.
Hello. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear hello. You can continue with the sentence.
Yeah, actually I'm Nevin. I'm a mechanical graduate, fresher. Actually, I would like to take a master's in mechatronics from Germany. Currently, I'm learning German. I have learned A2 and I'm studying B1 level. And I would like to know the scope and other things related to mechatronics. And what are the tips? Can you give some kind of tips so that I can find the job more easily during my studies? What do you think about my plan or question?
Well, thank you. The question was that you want to do a master in mechatronics and you're learning German at the level of the B1. And you would like to choose an institute or a university that helps you to do this stuff. So basically there are a few things that I can give you on the technical side, and also there are a few things that I can recommend you as a person coming from Iran to Europe. So that part of the story is also something that might change the decision that you're making. Basically, you need to consider 2 to 3 different parts of the thing. So the first thing is that it actually doesn't matter how large a university is or how small the university is. What you need to consider is that which university or which organization is actually guaranteeing your success toward the next goal, which if it is your job finding thing, you need to think about that options. So basically, it's not about the reputation. This is actually one of the mistakes that usually people do. Think about the university which has a huge reputation, because many of these reputation coming from the fact that those people are getting more money from the government for doing the research, or most of these universities, they have an old building and so on. You need to get out of that kind of surface decision and so on, and think about that which university can give you the job and guarantee for finding a job. This is something which is absolutely important. Then you can search, of course, among the different kind of university and so on. There is another topic you need to take care of, that is that which of the programs are more closer to industry. I mean, it doesn't matter how many books and theoretical things that they are giving you, a kind of university or institute that they have a direct connections with the industry, or maybe they have the professors or lecturer that at the same time teaching or CEO of a company and so on. This actually brings you a huge amount of connection to the industry. Imagine that, for example, somebody is teaching you on a specific topic, but at the same time, this person is a CEO of another company or CTO of a company. So if you're later on searching for a job, you have a few connections. And if you get let's say a certification or recommendation letter from those people, basically this is an industrial recommendation. At the moment, the pure academic things probably is not going to help you in specific areas like mechatronic and so on, because mechatronic is relatively, I would say, industry oriented. If you would have asked me in the area of the physics, I would say, okay, good universities are those people who have a lot of publications and so on. But in some of the engineering topic, you need to be careful about that, whether the courses are totally applied, industry oriented, the personnel that are there are basically coming from the industry, and more is that how much is the success rate for the foreigners in those areas. This is also very important to make sure that inside of the organization, not everybody is German, or let's say not everybody is from Austria. A kind of, let's say, combination of internationalism or let's say multicultural will help you a lot. Try to make sure that you go to an organization that if, for example, more than 50% of the people are international people, I mean, it doesn't matter from which country, but considered international. I mean, you just take a look at the list of the name and picture, you immediately see that whether the personnel there are 100% from one country or they have a diversity. If they have a diversity, then they are more open to give you the chance to work on some internship with them. Make sure that the organization is basically open to the international people. This is one of the major keys that some of them. So if, for example, the organization is perfect, good, but everybody is from Germany or everybody is basically from Europe, I'm afraid that they can really help you, or maybe they are open to accept you to do some real project with them. So just considering them, I'm sure that you will find your way and you don't need much more help. Just consider these 2 to 3, you will find lots of institutes who can offer this.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, sir.
Hey, hi, Javed.
Hello.
I heard 2 persons said something, just one by one you can start.
Hello. Sir, I just started just a few minutes before, but I could not able to complete it because of the pure network connection. Actually, I'm basically I'm an engineer. I worked associate engineer in a semiconductor field, ST microelectronics. Afterwards, I came back to India and I had done bachelor's in physics and completed bachelor of education in special education. So I worked 3 years in semiconductor field. Afterwards, I worked 8 years in education field. Now I'm planning going back to the engineering field. So just guide me, how can I go back to engineering field to secure a good job?
The question was that basically you are an engineer from the semiconductor industry, you have experience of working in ST and 8 years of education experience. There is a career gap in your CV in between. So once you want to return back as an engineer, the question is that how you fill up this kind of career gap that you have. Okay, this is actually a very good question, how to fill up this career gap. Especially in the area of semiconductor physics, I can talk about that because I was the project manager and group leader in Infineon, and was working in several projects related to the chip manufacturing, and of course these chips are at the moment used in the German car, in Audi and so on. So I think I can give you a good hint on that. Basically in the semiconductor industry and lots of engineering topic, there is something that is called roadmap. Okay, so there is an international roadmap for semiconductor physics. I'll try to open this in another window here. I think international roadmap for semiconductor physics. Let me just simply semiconductor. If you just simply search that, you will come to this website that is the International Technology Roadmap for Semiconductor Physics. The information on this website is a good example of the roadmap that are freely available to you. You just need to know it and to read the information. Basically, this roadmap will tell you at which time in time, basically in what time you need to know which technology. This is very important. I repeat it. For example, in 2020, you need to do 3-dimensional modeling of the electronic PNP junction. For example, this is just an example, okay? This technology needs to be known in 2020. If you know this technology 10 years later, this is too late. If you learn it too much earlier, it's also too early, okay? So it's very important if you want to get into a kind of, let's say, high-tech industry like semiconductor, electronic, and so on. The same is in the computer science and so on, or industry 4. Basically, you need to know the correct information in correct time. Correct time is actually more important than the correct information. The international technology roadmaps in different fields like semiconductor, this is the link that we have. It's basically a document that exactly tells you when you need to know what technology. Now, if you have a career gap, let's say you left this topic for 5 years, and after 5 years you want to get back to this topic, the only thing you need to know that basically you need to master the technology roadmap. If you can master it, then you can exactly see that what happened during the last 5 years that you missed, okay? By having that, you just need to do a few projects that shows that basically you didn't miss those topics, you do some new project. Basically, you need to do you have the information first of all, and second, you need to have some specific training and project, industrial related project, to something that the people needed right now, not something that they needed, I don't know, 5-10 years ago. So for that, my recommendation is that please take a look at the ITRS and take a look at what is the topics that are really required now, plus maybe the next 2 to 3 years, because those people who are employing you might employing you for the technology now, today, and the technology maybe 2 to 3 years from now. Now try to do a few projects related to those fields. For example, this kind of 3-dimensional multi-scale modeling is one of the technologies I know. Like the optical integration into the semiconductor physics is another topic. Gallium nitride integration onto this, that silicon technology is another topic. Because I know that because the topic is very close to my field, I know all of these topics. So depending whether you want to be a kind of, let's say, technology developer, a kind of, let's say, circuit designer, or whether you want to be a kind of, let's say, simulation analyst and so on, you might focus and exactly find the real correct topic. And actually, that is the secret that we are doing. If we're giving the training and topics and project to the people, we pick the project depending on the requirement of the industry over the next 2 to 3 years. So basically, we have lots of projects, but we cannot choose all of the topics because some of the people, if you want to go to ST, if you want to go to Bosch, Philips, Siemens, Infineon, and so on, you know that all of these, they have their own technologies. At the moment, for example, Infineon is also getting into the direction of the IoT, industrial IoT and industry 4.0 and so on. So you need also to know a little bit about these technologies. So 2 to 3 training program, 2 to 3 projects will certainly help you to get back to that topic. Just try to do it and you will be totally on track again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hi, Javed.
Hello, I hear you.
Yeah, my name is Sophy, and I have experience in IT industry for the past 13 years. Well, I have begun with being in the development team, and now I've moved on to the project managerial position. So I would like to know what are the opportunities that are available in the European industry. I mean, do I have to go back with the development, or can I proceed myself, or can I place myself in the managerial role in the European IT industry, or how is the IT industry available over in the European market?
Okay, thanks, Sophie, for asking this question. Basically, you have a development experience, you have managerial experience with 13 years of experience, and so on. You're looking into the opportunities at the moment. I can be totally frank with you about this kind of IT. There are thousands of the people who are good in the area of IT, but what they are missing is a combination of technical and managerial role. So if you have this kind of combination of the IT technical and the managerial role, you have a good chance. I should say that in the first round. The second thing is that there are a few main topics that the people at the moment are looking at. For example, a company might be interested in having some DevOps. So something like a full stack developers, or let's say business intelligence. These are the areas that are, let's say, newly opening to the people, because if you are a pure IT expert or even a manager expert, they are not able to employ you unless you have, for example, you have the capabilities to bring the AI into IT. I mean, people talking about the business intelligence and all of this stuff, that basically just like analytics, bringing the analytics and all of this kind of business intelligence into the topic of IT. So developing a normal application is basically simple, but developing an AI assisted application is something that the people, they need it. It's also another problem about the interdisciplinarity of the people. Basically, there are lots of the people who know about the IT side, but if you ask them, can you develop a program related to the, I don't know, mechanical engineering and a kind of interface related to that, then they're missing that kind of second part of that. So you somehow need to have a little bit of multidisciplinary expertise in different fields. So this is basically like a building blocks of different expertise that you need to have. Basically management role. However, the traditional management is also not going to help you. I'm sure that you're good in the area of Scrum and Kanban management, and you know that all this kind of agile management system and so on when you're talking about the IT management. If you don't have this experience, please go ahead and learn and do some project related to the agile management. So if somebody asks you, okay, what kind of management, you can just say, hey, I have done these 5 projects. These are the industrial projects, and I use the Scrum, or I use the agile approach for developing different kind of versions and so on. Also try to document this information, try to have some recommendation letters from those customers who you have done this project for them. This is on the management side. On the development side, as I said, there are a little bit of problems because the people at the moment, many companies in Europe, they are not capable of employing multiple people as a kind of team. So they need one person who basically covers all of the topics. So if you have a good experience of being a kind of, let's say, full stack developer, that you can develop basically everything from the IT infrastructure all the way to front end, then this will be actually quite good. You need to have this kind of test cases. And of course, you also need to totally approach the hidden job market, because there are lots of companies who need IT experts, but they don't announce it. This is something which is really huge at the moment. You need to be kind of, let's say, understanding this kind of initiative procedure to get into the companies to find potential employers. Of course, this is also something that we can help, but anyway, you can find this information somehow. If you are intelligent and you have this kind of business intelligence and digital marketing, I'm sure that you know how to find those companies which are basically prospect. They can be your potential employer, but at the same time, they are not announcing the jobs. So considering all of these building blocks that I was talking about, I'm sure that IT industry is one of the areas that will grow heavily after the Corona time.
Thanks, Javed. Just one more question on that aspect. You have specified a point where you have said that having multi-industrial information or knowledge is beneficial, correct?
Correct, yes.
So how do you propose that we go about achieving that? I mean, what can you guide us in those terms as to how we can go about achieving? Because I see that this is one factor, one point that is common across, be it IT, be it mechanical, be it any other industry that we are talking about. But I see that this is one point that is common across. So can you guide us to what, how we can achieve it so that we have this one particular point checked on our checklist?
Yeah, sure. Let me give you one specific example that is at the moment happening here. Let's say, for example, one of your future employers is coming from the manufacturing sector. Okay, so somebody from the manufacturing, like Siemens, some of the departments in Siemens, they are interested in employing you as a kind of IT expert. They are not announcing that they are looking for an IT expert. What they announcing is that usually there is a job written that they looking for a mechanical engineering expert with multidisciplinary field. So this is what the job title is. But in reality, they are not looking for a mechanical engineer. They are looking for an IT expert with mechanical engineering expertise. Okay. So Many people who think that, for example, right now I have the expertise in C++, Java, I don't know, JavaScript and Python, they might think that, oh, this job is not relevant to me because they are looking for a mechanical engineer, it has nothing to do with me. But if you take a look at the job, it's actually written that they are looking for a mechanical engineer with a huge experience in the area of programming in Python and so on. So there is actually, this is a problem. So a mechanical engineer, a pure mechanical engineer cannot get the job because they don't know so much about the programming and so on. A computer expert cannot also get the job because they don't know anything about the mechanical engineer. Okay, so this kind of the job is very typical at the moment. Okay, so what you need to know is that you need to say that I have done some project related to mechanical engineering. You can say that as an IT expert, I have done some project related to mechanical engineering. Like this project that we have, for example, developing a program for 3D printing. Okay, 3D printing is actually a topic that is related to manufacturing. But as an IT expert, if you do a project in that direction, it means that you also know the basics of mechanical engineering, manufacturing process, and all of this stuff. And you can implement those projects by developing a software in a specific field out of your, let's say, out of your comfort zone. Your comfort zone probably is about the programming. You expect that somebody else actually does the algorithm and you do the coding. Well, this is totally over at the moment. You are the person who should be actually covering all topics at the same time. If you can do that, then the companies that I just mentioned, they are ready to employ. This is basically the kind of multidisciplinary. If you need more examples, of course, I'm available to give you further examples. Maybe after the meeting, we can arrange more details.
Great, thanks, David. That answers my question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Zarbakhsh. My name is Aswati. I have a quick question, and I'll just give you a little bit of a view on my educational and work background. So I have a total of 8 years of work experience. I did engineering and then worked for 4 years as a software engineer. Then I did my MBA in India, and I now work for 4 years in Microsoft India as a sales specialist for Microsoft's public cloud Azure. So within Azure, my portfolio is on the data and AI set of services, and I sell primarily to a variety of Indian customers, all enterprises, and primarily in the unicorn and ITS verticals. So I just wanted to ask you what your view would be on pursuing career progression in the European market. And second question is, how does one tap into the hidden jobs that you mentioned, the hidden job market?
Thank you for the question. So basically your question was that you have some 8 years of experience in engineering and software plus an MBA from India. You have some experience, some few years of experience in working with Microsoft, Microsoft Azure or Azure as you pronounce it, and related to the databases and so on. And the second question is about the hidden jobs that we're talking about. But the first thing about yourself, about the opportunities. The opportunities in Europe related to database-driven software development is huge. Believe me, at the moment, lots of the people are basically using the information, whether this is business intelligence, whether this information are spying the user, the user experience and so on, or just simply the big data and so on.
Yes.
I can, for example, give you one project, one European project that we have done in the past. If you search my name in Google, I'm sure that you can find that. You can say big data, and maybe this was also easier to find it. Yeah, this big data era in sky and earth. You can find my name. We actually started this kind of project, and we made a huge network in Europe for two basic parts in big data. One set of big data is the information that we observe from the earth watching into the sky. So by looking into the cosmetic information and so on, there is a huge big data available from the celestial and different kind of things that are available in the sky. But also looking from the satellite to the earth, there is also a huge amount of information related to GIS, and of course all of this stuff related to the information gathered through the internet is also a part of that. Okay, so this basically shows the different kind of thing. And by the way, you can also see that here from Austria. I was the only person who have the vote of Austria in this kind of thing. But you see that there are also different people here in this part of meeting. Maybe you can also take a look at their profile. You can take a look at their website to see the opportunities in the field of big data. This link is available to you. And just simply you can search my name with big data and you will land with this. Take a look at the website of these people. For example, there's my colleague Uroš is from Slovenia. And for example, last week we had a discussion about implementing the different kind of big data analytics, hardware and software mixing together and introducing the new module for industry for the Alta Lab is his own company. He's a CEO of a company here. But this is just an example. You can go through the list, and there's a huge list of the people in this here. You can just take a look at their website so that you have a better understanding about the opportunities that are available in the area of big data and so on. And basically, all of those companies who are having this big data have one problem: analysis of the big data. So we are talking about the application that are basically database driven, either on the analytics side or maybe on the visualization side, because you have a huge amount of data available in the internet, just like coming from the users and so on. The question is how you want to visualize it, how you want to analyze it, and how you want to sell it, this information, to make an added value. Otherwise, we have a bunch of data and you don't know what to do with this data. So having a good understanding of the database structure, especially for unstructured data. This is actually, I repeat it, unstructured data is a real major problem in the area of big data at the moment, because there are lots of information available in internet, different websites that are totally unstructured. So if you have a good information how to build a database structure, how to build a specific formats that you can fit the unstructured data and put it into kind of a structured data, this is going to help the many companies. And this is exactly the opportunities. If you have done some project in this area so that you can really show it as a test cases, like a portfolio and so on, to the companies, then the companies are basically open to initiate a discussion with you, although they didn't have a kind of, let's say, job opening. And that is actually the answer to the second question you just mentioned, hidden jobs. Basically, there are a set of the jobs that are announced online. I mean, everybody knows that there are jobs available online, like the jobs available in LinkedIn, or the jobs available in, I don't know, career.at.de and so on. This website, they have some of the jobs. But the point is that there are many employers who don't want to announce the jobs. There are different reasons for that, okay? Don't take it like jokes or something, because there are seriously many employers, and we have the hidden job market. I'm sure that you really see this this page that I'm showing right now. We wrote this article in our magazine here on the website, is available. Just simply search on the job market. The job market is basically like an iceberg. I mean, I hope that you really see that here. This is the iceberg that you see, that from the bottom part to the lower upper side. Yes. The parts that you see as a kind of job posting can be something in the range of 10% to 25% maximum of the jobs that are visible to the people. So basically, people sitting here on the surface of the water and seeing this portion of the job market that are available. There are other jobs that are not available because they are a little bit deeper. First of all, some job hunters might be searching for some jobs, because many companies, they don't want to announce the job because they get 500 applicants. And what do they do with this kind of 500 applicants? At the moment, if you announce something on LinkedIn, in average, you get something in the range of 500 to 1,000 applicants. So what do you want to do with this 500? This 500 is not qualified. Do you want to interview them 500 hours? I mean, it's not really possible. It doesn't make sense. For many companies, like mid-sized companies, and by the way, a huge portion of the European economy is small and middle-sized enterprises. So SMEs, SME, that is also known. In German is also called KMU, kleine und mittlere Unternehmen. So from that point, it's a huge amount of the jobs that are not really announced. The next thing is that those people who are doing the networking is also another point, and the internal jobs is another thing. I recommend you take a look at this this article. It's available in our magazine on the website. Just go to the blogs and magazine. You can take a look at that. This is a relatively short article. You can take a look at that. And if you have more questions, of course, I will be available to you. So basically, one of the services that we offer is that we offer this kind of hidden job market to the people. Of course, the people can with some level of intelligence, or let's say business intelligence or artificial intelligence and crawling and so on, they can access to these kind of things. So basically some of this information might be available online through some of the website, but it is not so that much visible to the, that. I'm sure that you understand the point. And of course, lobbying, European lobby is always available. I mean, there are some jobs that can be only created once you know the people. So for example, if we know some people, we just call them, just a phone call, just say, hey, you're coming from India, you understand what is the effect of the relationships, and the same thing is going on in the United States and in Europe. So in knowing, having a good connection certainly help you to get much deeper in this thing. I hope that I answered the two questions. Yes.
Yes, thank you so much. That was very insightful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Mr. Javed, how are you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Mr. Javed, I'm having 25 years of experience in chemical field. Actually, I'm a chemical engineer. Out of 25 years, I work in 15 and a half years around in a plant operation, okay, in senior manager level. And after that, I switch over to technical training side. So basically, I'm in technical training now last around 11 years, and technical classroom and on-site, on the field job assessment, and I'm a qualified assessor as well. And I'm also counseling time to time. So what do you think about my career if I want to move to Europe? What kind of opportunity you're looking, I can look?
So the question was that you have 25 years of experience, basically 15 years after that was in the chemical engineering and plant and so on. And you are also a technical assessor. This is actually very highlight among the things that you just mentioned. So basically the opportunities for you would be including a pathway that you travel to Europe for this kind of, basically you have two phases. In the first phase, you need to have an employer that employing you, and you stay probably employed in some companies until you can really fix your residence permit in Europe. So in the first phase, you probably need to work for another person in another company, either as a trainer or public relationship or whatever kind of communications that you're doing, or basically technical assessor in the area of quality assurance, quality control, and so on. So companies like TÜV, for example, that, like a Technische Überwachungsverein in Germany or in Austria, they are basically that auditing organization. They send the people to different companies and different countries. So knowing your international relations and the experience that you have in assessment and quality assurance and so on, that you probably didn't mention it, but I assume that you are also a quality assurance expert. Then you basically get an employment in this kind of companies, and then they will send you to different companies. Basically, you will visit different companies and you do your expertise. Basically, you do kind of auditing or assessments that you usually do. Of course, you need to know that the standards in Europe is different than the standard in India. So you need to know that, of course, you don't need to say that, but you know that there is different kind of a standard available, but you have a guideline. So you need to know that you are totally aware of the recent auditing procedure and the recent auditing standard and criteria that are important for the companies that are basically certifying. In Austria, there is also the Quality Austria, or let's say AQ Austria. So this is Austrian Quality Assurance Standard Organization. This is called AQ Austria, AQ Austria. And in Germany is also TÜV, and of course there is also Austrian TÜV available. TÜV, like a TU double dot, the two TU umlaut V. And this organization are basically kind of, let's say, typical way that you have. When you're talking with these companies and you're talking about 25 years of experience, of course they understand. If you want to go to a small company and say, I have 25 years of experience, they say, hey, you are too much overqualified for us. You are too expensive and so on. So probably you need to get into some kind of, let's say, organizations that are doing this kind of assessment. There are also group of the assessment organizations available as an engineering consulting, and basically Cademix is also one of those organizations. Unfortunately, we are not certified in the area of chemical engineering. I'm sorry about that. We are not certified on that area. But if you can move into the area of something like physics, technical physics, or let's say interdisciplinary or engineering, certainly we could help you. But in the chemical field, I'm sorry about that, unless you really shift a little bit to the physics rather than chemistry. And the thing is that after having that kind of employment and securing your residence permit in Europe, then the best way would be to have your own company. Basically, with that much experience and coming from India, maybe the best option for you that I would recommend is that to start your own company. This company can be a quality assurance company or basically an auditing company. Yeah, I'm sure that you will also, after 2 years of working, you will get all the required certifications so that you have the official certifying certifications that you can start a consulting office. And using that, you can basically have your own company. I would say that, and hopefully you have the entrepreneurial, let's say, mindset. So, and you know the advantage of that. I mean, I assume that in your age, having a company is also quite an advantage. Then you can also help the other people. I think this is something also important. You're thinking probably about the families, friends, and so on, that you can also help them. So having your own company will be quite an advantage for you and for the other people.
Just actually in quality assurance, I actually have a certificate in training and assessment from Australia, Shisham Institute from Australia. Not in quality assurance. It is a certificate in training and assessment from Shisham Institute, Australia. Is it not sufficient, or you would like to take the quality assurance certification from the Austria, Europe?
Well, having any certificate from, let's say, the kind of developed countries will help you a lot, a lot. There is no question about that. Apart from that, if you have done some, let's say, auditing or let's say quality assurance project based on that. So basically having the certificate is one thing, and doing the real project based on that will be also good. So I'm sure that you can have a kind of list of portfolio, a list of the project that you have audited, or list of the companies that you have gone through their quality assurance and so on, is also quite good. So while you have this kind of portfolio, certainly the people would be interested in asking you some more details about rather than just asking about the certificate. If you already have one certificate from Australia, I think it would be quite enough to do that. So it's just a matter of showing a nice portfolio, and then the rest of that is again accessing the same hidden job market is of course very important, and having some people to employ you in the beginning. Certainly these are the things. And the second thing that maybe I just forgot to mention, that in the field of quality assurance, you need to know a little bit of the German language. So this is consider that to improve your German if you want to find a good job here. And in the beginning, you only know English. Of course, it's okay, but a little bit of German will also help you a lot, specifically in this field.
Okay, thank you. Just want to add one more thing. I'm looking forward from you the list of quality assurance in Europe, some consultancies or some companies who are providing this quality assurance courses.
Sure. Please continue the discussion with Mr. Joby, and this continued discussion we will have a specified meeting for you. Then we can talk about the details.
Okay. And one more question about PhD program online. So is it how many years of program total? 3 years, right?
A PhD in Europe, basically we don't offer PhD at all. Okay, we help the people during the PhD to get more publications, but at Cademix we don't offer PhD. But if you're generally asking about Europe, the PhD in Europe basically is a variable length. You cannot say the number of the years are important. It can be as short as 2.5 years and as long as, I don't know, 7 to 8 years. In most of the cases, people finish it. Some of the universities, they have a minimum of the 3 years in their agenda. They say that, okay, the number of the semester, you need to do that. But the most important things alongside the PhD is the number of the publications that they discuss. Many universities, they have a limit on the number of publications. So for example, they say that you need to have 2 publications in the journals plus 2 to 3 publications in some conferences. Whereas at least one of the journal publications should start with your name, something like that, that you are a first author. So this is a kind of, let's say, typical requirement, and this is certainly different from one university to the other university. You need to negotiate with your supervisor, with the university, and this negotiation needs to be done in the beginning. You can be totally open to negotiate with the people, and of course, if you cannot negotiate, we are also available to help you with the negotiation, how to negotiate. So we had the situation that somebody didn't have any journal publication, but they wanted to finish the PhD. So there are some ways to negotiate that, to making equivalence of those journals and so on. And of course, we can also help you in that direction. But as I said, we don't offer the PhD by ourselves.
Okay, hello?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, she is Jessie Mass, she is from Kerala. I am working for an engineering college, and we do have students from different disciplines. You mentioned that students, or there must be multidisciplinary experts. How can we make it possible for the students who are in mechanical and IT and electronics and electrical? There are so many disciplines are there, but they are mostly theoretical experts, but not practical experience. So how do you think, if one join with your Cademix institute, how can you make it possible for them to make projects or practical experiences, or how do you think about that?
Okay, thanks for the question. Basically, the question is that how you want to implement. It's about the policy, how you want to implement the project for the students, so you create a kind of portfolio that is available and is multidisciplinary. Let me give you one example exactly based on what you just mentioned. A combination of the mechanical engineering or IT, how you make this group of the people multidisciplinary. Basically, if you want to define a project in the mechanical engineering, some nice project like a 3D printing is a very good example, that because I have done it several times in the past years. Basically, if you define a project like developing a new 3D printing project. I can give you one example. We had a group of the people, mechanical engineer and electronics, actually came to me and they said they want to do the kind of nice industry relevant project. And I offered them a list of the project that we have. So, okay, these are like 20 projects that we have at the moment. And quite interesting, they chosen, I'm laughing because this was quite interesting. Maybe at some other point I'll just describe the full story of that. But basically they decided to build a 3D printer for making chocolates. So you know that a 3D printer is normally used for making, plastics and so on. But if you do some changes on the mechanical part, of course, you can also print the chocolates, the liquid chocolates and all of this stuff. So they started to having a container of the chocolates, like a liquid chocolate. And on the bottom side of the 3D printer, instead of heating, you have a cooling. So basically they had a cooling mechanism. So the chocolate drops actually on the specific way. And once the chocolate is really dropping on the surface, it really gets hard. Okay. So this was actually a 3D printer for chocolates. Okay. It was quite interesting for mechanical engineers to see that how 3D printer can be used in the manufacturing. And they were quite excited to do that. But in the middle of the project, they realized that the software for 3D printing could not be used as it is. So they need to improve the software. And at that point, we included 2 to 3, I think 3 IT experts, those people who have studied actually electronics and IT programming and so on. And they build up a team of mechanical engineer and IT and electronic people. So together they could continue the project. That was one example of the project that we did. So by using this kind of project, the people, they get to know each other. So basically it's not all about having a project which is industrial only for mechanical engineer. It's also about the multidisciplinary included in the project. So during the project, they had a lot of meetings. So the mechanical engineer needs to work within the project with electronics. In the beginning, of course, it's difficult. They were speaking totally the same, different language. So a computer programming is totally talking about the programming language. So what kind of programming do you need? Do you need Python? Do you know, I don't know, JavaScript? Should I develop something in C++ for you in Arduino and this stuff? And the other guys in mechanical engineering just say, hey, talking about this screws, this screws is really, and they start to discuss with each other. While doing this stuff together, after 2 to 3 months, I was very excited to listen to the presentation offered by the mechanical engineer. This mechanical engineer, they were presenting as if they studied electronic, computer science, and mechanical engineering all at the same time. It's just like as a kind of, let's say, complete mechatronic engineer, which was not originally the goal, but actually by putting them into a project to work together, this is possible. And at the moment, what we are usually doing is basically cross-disciplinary, or let's say multidisciplinary project. So some of these people, they don't need to work in a team with those classmates from the same discipline. Rather, they need to build a team with another person in another discipline. I think, is it clear for you what I'm talking about?
Not exactly, but you said we can build a team, but where do we get the team members? Where do we get the project? So we are talking about the possibilities associating with you. If one student is one mechanical engineer wants to join your program, and he needs to be a multi-talented or a multidisciplinary expert, but how can you make it possible? You make it possible for him to identify some teams, or you make it possible for him to identify a project? How is that possible?
Please let me correct you when I said when we're talking about the interdisciplinary. Having an interdisciplinary skill is not a prerequisite to get into Cademix program. This is not a prerequisite. We cannot expect everybody to be interdisciplinary. The people, this is an output of our project. So at the end of our project and training that we do, the people will be this interdisciplinary. We cannot expect the fresh graduates to be interdisciplinary, especially coming from India and so on. The people usually are not interdisciplinary. So this is not a prerequisite on our side. What we offered them is, however, a project directly coming from industry. So if you really want to bring some technology, so first of all, this project needs to be industry-oriented project. This is very important. So this should be a real need of the industry. So at that time, we had a company that contacted us and say, hey, can you offer us some graduates who have the experience in multidisciplinary field related to the 3D printer? That was the reason we created a number of the projects in agreement with the industrial partners. Okay, this is very important because you need to talk to them. I'm sure that you have some industries in your region, and if you want to do that by your own, you just need to invite them. Just say, hey, can you help us to define some project so that if our students are doing those projects, then you have the possibility to employ them. So by bringing those people as a kind of lecturer, as a kind of, let's say, invited lecturer in the classroom, you can bring the ideas. Now, once you have a bunch of ideas, you put these ideas in front of the student. Just say, hey, hello, students, we have 20 projects for you. Now, based on the interest, they can print the chocolates, or they can have a printing of the composite material, and so on. There are different options. You should let the people freedom to choose among, based on whatever interest they have. They might, in Austria, there are lots of the people are interested in playing a ski. You know, that they just go on top of the mountain and skiing and so on. People are really passionate about that. So we always have a few projects in our pockets talking about development of the quality topics, quality facilities for playing ski, and this is stuff. This is, we need to understand the passion of these people, especially talking about the millennials and so on. Many of them, they decide about the project based on their own interest. So considering the multidisciplinary aspect, considering the industrial project, but don't forget the main passion of the people. Okay, so for example, for IT expert and so on, we always have some project related to the gaming industry, how to develop gaming development and so on. You can, of course, in parallel teach them how to learn the algorithm and all of this stuff. But inside of the thing, for example, in a course that I had teaching about the algorithm and growth algorithm related to the MATLAB programming and all of this stuff, I usually teach them a game how to tree grows. Okay. This is quite a nice game. The people, they like it. They want to you know, that develop something. But at the end of the course, they say that, right now I understand. This is a growth algorithm required in that industry, in the electronic enzymes. So you need to also understand the, you know, that psychology of the the millennials, they are looking into interesting projects. So that is the only thing. Just try to get in touch with your industry in your neighborhood. I'm sure that you can also find good ideas. And of course, we can also talk about the MOU exchange of the students and so on. No problem. We can talk about that.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. And one more question. Unfortunately, our students are more theory oriented and very less practical experience. And nowadays, all the industries are looking for students with AI experience or artificial or 3D printing. We also offer in the Fab Lab. But artificial intelligence, it's very difficult for us to provide a good industry-oriented expert. Nowadays, it's still lacking here in Kerala.
Let me tell you some. This is actually quite a difficult situation. There was also a time going back like 20 years back in Europe. Lots of universities in Europe, they had the same situation. These are basically professors who studied research topics during their own PhD time, and they start to teach the things in a theoretical way. Now, what the European Commission did in the Framework 7 and also Horizon 2020 is basically Europe cut down the budget for those universities who are staying like traditional universities. So starting about almost 10 years ago, it was a must, it was a pressure to all of the universities. If they wanted to continue their old traditional way, their budget will be cut by something like an 80% cut. Okay, you get 20% if you want to do the things in a traditional way. Your budget will stay only 20%. Reduce the number. So that many universities, they started to release some of the professors, or they started not to employ new professors in a traditional way. They started to employ, let's say, industry expert as a new professor. I should also say that the offer that I received at the university was also one of the nice offers that I received. The first time they invited me to do a lecture, I was actually working as a project manager in Infineon. So the first time I got an offer, just told me that there is a course related to the finite element and simulation. Are you available to teach it? And of course, I was an industrial leader at that time, and I got the offer. Of course, there are so many people who are probably better than me talking about the theory of the finite elements. I have no, I don't have any kind of claim that I'm the best person in the theory of the finite elements and all of this kind of thing. I don't say that. I mean, but I know how the finite element is used in industry. This is something I know that very well. Okay, how to use simulation and so on. So as a kind of person, they invited me to come in the university and teach one course. After one course, they invited me to teach 5 courses. And at some point, they offered me a full-time job as a professor, a full-time professor. So if you see that here, this procedure needs to be done everywhere in the world. But I think the budgeting is actually one of the decision, one of the pushing mechanism to push the decision-making levels at the university to do something.
Okay. Thank you very much. We are also interested in bringing our students multi-talented experts, and we will discuss later how we can develop cooperations with Joby. Thank you.
You're welcome. We are always open for this kind of exchange program. We are also open for the joint internship program. This is also quite good. Of course, the joint internship is something very good. Which means that the people do some internship partly on your side and then partly on our side. Of course, at the end of this Corona time and so on, getting a visa type C, business type visa C should be enough to handle that. So it should be quite interesting for the people also on your side to have a kind of, let's say, joint internship. So they will learn something. They will have one supervisor on your side, one supervisor or one project here on our side. So this kind of joint project, I think this would be a kind of, let's say, future of the education, so that the people not only get the chance to work in another institute, but also learn, you know, the 2 different cultures and finding more opportunities. I think this is the future.
Hello.
Hello, I hear you.
Yeah, my name is Gopinath. I'm currently residing in Austria. Actually, I have an experience of 1 year in the field of software testing. So it's like I am applying for currently so many jobs, but till now I have not got any positive replies. I think because of my low experience. So like after finding the Cademix, I think, will it be a good opportunity for me to get a course there so that I could look into more further job opportunities like an internship program or a project or something like that?
Thanks for the question. I think you said that you are currently residing in Australia and you are a software testing expert.
Yeah, I'm in Austria, actually in Germany.
You are in Austria. Okay, sorry,
Yeah.
you are in Austria. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I can tell you there is a story that I want to tell you. I recently had a discussion with one of the, let's say, probably your potential employer, and I asked them what kind of people you're at the moment looking at, and what is the typical jobs that you have. And he said, well, at the moment we need this kind of full stack developers and so on. This is our highest priority, and we will pay them the maximum amount of the money that we have. Business intelligence and so on is the second topic. Typical developers of one specific field would be another field. And at most, we will employ also some kind of quality control testers of the software, but we usually don't pay them that much money. So this was actually the real story that I heard a couple of days ago, which means that being as a software tester, I'm sorry that I'm telling that so direct to you, but being a software tester, if you are not really doing a kind of, let's say, very high qualified testing, so let's say huge assessment and so on, is not really considered as a, let's say, critical key expertise. So if you introduce yourself in the next interview, introduce yourself, and my recommendation to you, don't introduce yourself as a software tester, because there are also other kids at the age of, I don't know, 12 years old or 13 years old, they introduce themselves as a kind of game tester. And if you ask them, what are you doing? Just say, we are expert in testing the games. Okay, testing the games, basically they are sitting in front of the game consoles and playing the games, and they check whether the game is working fine or not. This is basically software, and they write in their LinkedIn that they are a software tester. Okay, so you need to find some kind of a different way of introducing yourself rather than just software tester. Maybe you can just create or reframe your CV into something more interesting or more professional, like a quality assurance and so on. And talking about quality assurance or quality control, or let's say consultant, will be even much more better, because then you can talk about the specific, measurable and achievable items that is available to these people. So basically, if you just test it, the question is that what criteria you're using for testing. Okay, what is the key performance criteria that you have for testing? Then you need to have a portfolio of different criteria. Are you testing the speed? Are you testing the different platform? Are you testing it portability, or I don't know, kind of, let's say, stress test are you doing on the software to make it in a hard, difficult situation when the computer RAM is less and I don't know, hard disk is low and so on? Are you testing that on that level? Are you testing that in the critical condition, or do you have your own scenarios and so on? So there are a lot of questions that can be asked to make your job a little bit more professional than just simply introducing yourself as a software tester. Sometimes the people come to us and they say, hey, basically you have some expertise. It's a matter of how you present your, your skills. It's actually like a polishing up your CV or the way that you talk about that. So we have, for example, among our programs that we have in the Tech Career Acceleration Program, this is one of our programs that you see that here. It's basically about the way that you talk with the potential employers, how you want to initiate the discussion. You can basically offer them a kind of consulting session about the software development that they have. You can talk about the specific criteria. So basically, if you are applying a lot and not getting so much, that feedback, or you're not get invited into interviews a lot, this is basically something missing. And that is the way of presenting yourself is, I would say it's probably not the best way that you are doing that at the moment. So just by a short introduction that you had here, and introducing yourself as a software tester and this stuff, I would say that you certainly need to focus on that. You should consider talking to Mr. Joby. He has a lot of experience with describing the Tech Career Acceleration Program. And basically, this is in the category of the soft skills. We're not talking about your hard skills. I don't want to judge your hard skills. I mean, your technical skills is probably the best. But the point is that you need to be able to transfer this information to the real employer so that they don't have any hesitation. They should immediately bring you into the discussion. So at least an interview should be a kind of consulting session for them. So from that point, you really need to polish your way of presenting yourself, basically. It has little to do with the real project. But also talking about the real project and so on, of course, you should present your own portfolio of the software that you have done, this quality assurance for them, or the list of the things, or you also have the possibility to publish a few journal articles, or let's say magazine article, for example, what we have. So there are possibilities to basically do kind of, let's say, branding or rebranding your expertise into the real need of the industry. Of course, in some other industries, they might also use a different kind of wording. For example, in the simulation industry, they don't accept the things like a tester and this stuff. People more talking about the uncertainty analysis in a simulation environment. So you need to understand that when you go from one industry to the other, you need to change the words. Okay, so from a software tester, I mean, talking to a company like Catalan and so on, don't mention it that you are a software tester. Say that you are an uncertainty analysis expert. So this is actually a kind of different wording that you might use. And you need certainly to have different kind of profile, different CVs, different recommendation letters, and basically different way of applying for different kind of industry. An industry related to manufacturing, they expect different words than another industry related to computer science or the gaming industry. So the wording is also different. So it's basically the same thing, but the people use the same different kind of wording. Was it the answer to your question?
Yeah, like I also wanted to add that, is there any internship program or course offered in Cademix so that I could like build up more of my career and knowledge?
Well, basically, we offer the courses according to the requirement of the people. It's not like this that we have some courses, rather we create courses depending on a few things. Depending on where you are right now, basically your CV, after reviewing your CV, we offer you some option. The second thing is that based on the current state of the employers and the jobs available in the market, so basically a project that needs to be done, it should satisfy basically your interests, your personalities, your values, and even skills that you have. And together with all of this, we need to assume that what is the targets that you want to reach. If you want to go to, let's say, to find a job in electronic industry or gaming industry, then the type of the internship would be different. We will, I mean, this is actually the advantage that we have. Always, whenever we define a project, this is based on the circumstances. So we will create the project, not that we have the project for you and choose. We will optimize a project for you so that by doing that project, you will get the things that you want, basically the destination that you have.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll contact you soon after the meeting.
Of course, sure. Mr. Joby will guide you, or maybe we'll arrange another meeting. Just contact him for more, for arranging enough. Yeah, sure. Thank you. I think there is no more questions here. We didn't take a look at the text. Should we also take a look at the text and see some questions, whether there are something there? So I'm just going to say that I'm pursuing my final year of Bachelor of Technology in Computer Science in India. What are the job progression in Austria as a fresher? Okay, so Bachelor of Technology in Computer Science generally is just like this, that if you are a graduate of the computer science and you have the full stack developer, business intelligence, and all of these topics related to this situation, or if you are IT infrastructure, or let's say website developer and all of this stuff, basically all of the companies who traditionally they didn't need kind of IT technologists or computer expert, they need it. I can tell you, for example, some of these guys who are selling vegetables here in the last years, they didn't need a kind of website, but right now, I think even a person selling vegetables, they need their own website. So from that point, there are a huge amount of the jobs. Of course, you need to have specifically good target to target those jobs. And of course, this also depends on what kind of salary level you're looking at. Of course, there are some skills which are more paid, or let's say the salary levels are a little bit higher than the other. So of course, this should be discussed a little bit more in the details. So somebody wrote here that that course that can be on-premise, online. Is there any difference between the certification you're providing for both
Dr. Javed?
providers? Yes, Mr. Joby.
Maybe we can wind up with the session with a question of answering how we guarantee what are the areas that we can really help a candidate once they join us. So, most of the people wanted to have a kind of result. Maybe that was one point. Miss Jessie was also asking, like, how do we guarantee these kind of expertise into one pool, and at the end of the day, they get benefited.
Very good. So basically, the things that the people get is totally consolidated in this table that you're watching. Basically, this is the list of the services that we offer. Basically, what we offer to the people is with the project. Everything in Cademix is project-based. Even the trainings are project. We have this motto of learning the things by doing it. So basically, we don't have any kind of, let's say, traditional classroom. What we have is the project. On the way to do the project, of course, if required to learn something, you will learn something. Of course, we will also provide you the information and so on. Whether this is done online or whether this is done on campus, whether this is done in our laboratory or whether we send our hardware to you so that you can do that at home, it doesn't matter. What is really important is that at the end of the day, you will do some projects. By doing a project, you will have the possibility to learn the things from an industrial point of view. So basically what we offer is a coaching, is a supervision to guide you, to accompany you alongside this project. This is something that we offer. And this is certainly different than traditional universities. In traditional universities, there are certain curriculum, list of the courses that you need to pass, lectures, and all of this stuff. This is totally different way of approach. You need to see that which kind of project is really helping you more. Are you learning more in the classroom, or you can say, hey, project is really helping me to find a job? These are two different things. Learning in the classroom, at the end of the day, you might get a degree, so you go to a normal university. If your approach is to find a job, then of course project is really helping you. The second thing you need to consider is that the additional support that we offer in terms of polishing your CV, the way how you talk with the potential employer. This is very important because many people, they are very good in the technical side, but they don't know how to present themselves in a language that the employers employ them. It's sometimes a matter of cultural differences, sometimes it's a matter of convincing the people, and sometimes it's a matter of negotiating a good salary. Sometimes the people, they don't know how to negotiate a better contract, or let's say contract situation, you know, that bonuses, and this is stuff that we have. So we also help the people throughout the process to find a potential employer and also to handle the situation during an interview. And then the next thing is that our access and the network. I already mentioned this European network that we have. So basically we are well networked in Europe. We have like a 20,000 connection, direct connection through different MOUs in Europe, so that it's quite easy for us to talk and call or sending an email for these people to say, hey, are you available to give a project to this guy? Are you available to offer 1 hour consulting to some of our students? Are you available to offer us a good idea for the next project? This is something that comes from, so whatever good, let's say, a good idea we have is, in most of the cases, it's not enough. You need to have a network of the people who are basically sitting in industry and they can help you. So network is the most important thing. Talking that, of course, in India, you know that how important the relationship is. I'm sure that you know all of this stuff. And then the last thing, just before doing that, is that we are also a certifying body organization. So basically, we are available to test and assess the people alongside a specific criteria. Again, I repeat that we cannot give the certification on any, let's say, arbitrary topics, but in our topics related to computer topics, computer-aided topics, engineering, physics, we can give the certification to the people, to the product, to the processes and organizations. This is something that we are eligible to do that, and we use it, okay? So this actually helps the people to have the certification in hand, and this is a personalized certification. It's not just like a certification everybody has, because the projects are uniquely defined. A certification or an assessment result, or let's say a documentation or even the recommendation letter, is always unique. Being unique is actually one of the key words. in finding the job. Because if you are unique, your chance of getting invited into a kind of, let's say, job interview is really improved, because all of the others are totally the same, so the human resources will select a few of them, but unique people always get invited into the interviews. So going through this table basically helps you to understand what are the individual services that we offer. So considering that, I mean, if you have some question, please go through this table. It's available in our career center, and certainly you should offer it. Was it the answer, Mr. Joby?
Okay, that's fine. Maybe we can have a last question regarding the mode of trainings we have. Like we have online blended program and as well as on-campus program. So in the pretext of this COVID, we might on concentrating on this blended program where people start their studies from home and they come here and complete the project and getting into the industry. Maybe what would you suggest?
Well, the point is that at the moment we recommend this kind of program that includes the 3 phases that we have here. Basically, the phase 1 is to start some kind of remote phase project that includes the online project. Basically, online term is something that is well used here. Basically, we are not talking about the training and the books which are published online. We are talking about the online project. So we use a session like this to communicate with the people. Okay, during the session, they will have the supervision and the coaching and mentoring they require to go alongside this project. But don't forget, always the focus is on the project. Now, if they need a kind of software, of course, the software will be available to them. But in some cases, the people, they need a hardware, let's say in mechatronic or 3D printing or some of these topics, then the hardware will be provided to them so that they can work from home. Still, it is basically a kind of project based, depending on whatever we want to do that. But basically, it is all of the things required for doing the project. This is something that we've done. We call this remote lab, or let's say one-to-one coaching and certification. This is the phase 1. The phase 2 includes a travel to Austria. If the people, they cannot travel, so maybe they can shift this phase 2 to a little bit later. But we should face it that at the end of the day, if you want to get a job in Germany, in Austria, you need to be traveling to Europe. This is not something, of course, you can have some kind of, let's say, interview online, but at the end of the day, you really need to travel. Okay, this is actually a cost and so on. But this phase 2 should be well used for arranging interviews and visiting the partners. So those people who are having this phase 2 basically are already here in Vienna, or let's say in Austria or in Germany. They can travel across Europe for visiting, talking with the potential employers. But in most of the cases, the people should not start by traveling, and after the travel to Austria, then they start doing the project. Basically, the project part is something that they can do online. And there is also another good reason for doing the online project before applying for the visa, because if you have done a project and if you have a certification, for example, from Cademix or any other institute, and you go to the embassy and you say, hey, I have done already one project and this is the result of the project, this is the certificate. The people sitting in the embassy say, hey, this guy is really serious. Okay, so they can have this kind of, let's say, priority visa issuance for you. And especially since we are doing the business type visa, this is actually an important thing to show that you are serious. Basically, you are serious in the program. You just don't want to travel to Europe and then after that start doing the ABC, the basics and so on. So there are very good reasons to start the project online, not only because of the Corona situation. Even I would say after the finishing the end of the Corona, I think this will be the kind of, let's say, optimum way to start the project online, and at some point travel to Europe for interviewing. And once you get a job, of course, our support will be continued in the framework of follow-up during the first month of employment.
I think that's fine. Anybody else would like to ask maybe 1 or 2 questions last? Otherwise, if no more questions arrive, then we can wind up the session.
Sure. There is a opportunity of mechanical engineer with the cost engineering experience in Austria and Europe. We can do the cost engineering experience. Yeah. Well, if if I understood it correctly, related to the cost engineering. So basically cost engineering, I don't know what's the meaning of the cost engineering. Maybe just I quickly go through the answer that mechanical engineers are actually quite welcome at the moment in Europe in different industries. There are automotive industry, there are electronic industry, semiconductor industry, manufacturing industry, energy sector. All of these topics are basically the area that they need a mechanical engineer. Okay, so from that point, having a mechanical engineering with maybe if it's means the cost assessment analysis and this stuff, of course, yeah, there are lots of the people who are searching for mechanical engineer who have the financial background, project planning experience, or basically all this kind of thing. Again, this is one of the multidisciplinary expertise, so that the people have some management skills, soft skills related to financial, and a technical topic related to mechanical engineering. Very good opportunities at the moment available, especially during this Corona time and so on. The people are more that focusing on this cost analysis, financial analysis, project planning, optimization of the system, and also the energy optimization system and so on to reduce the cost and improving the efficiency and all of this stuff. So it's actually quite an important topic that you just mentioned, but I think this was a question from Vasi. And there is also another question from someone else. Sanchari, and this is the course duration varies from the person to person. What would be the level of the certification provided? Is it a certificate course or diploma or master to be specific? Okay, so basically the question is that because the projects are different in length, from one person to the other person, the projects are different. So what kind of certificates are offered? Basically, the certificates that we offer, think about the kind of certification which is offered like a, let's say, kind of other certificate that you know, let's say ISO 9001, okay? This kind of certificate. When a company has this kind of certification, you cannot ask how many hours you were working to get that kind of certificate, okay? It's not about the time, it's about reaching specific quality. Okay, so from that perspective, it's not all about the timing. With time, it's not important at all. Reaching a specific quality is the most important thing, and the certificate is always related to the quality of the people, what they can achieve. If we have, for example, a certificate that's showing that this person is a simulation expert, it means that this person is really having the expertise in that specific area. So this is exactly the scope of the certificate. Always, there are certificates that are standard, let's say certificate, and they are personalized certificate. Personalized certificate always determines the scope of the certificate and the scope of the quality assurance that is done by the certifying body. And in that case, it actually doesn't matter that how many hours. Well, we still have the mechanism to make an equivalent ECTS, that is the European Credit Transfer System, to make sure that those people who are doing something, how much equivalent of how much university degree or how many hours of learning it is. There is also a mentioning of that in the certificate, but in most of the cases, a personalized certificate has something to do with the scope of the activities rather than the number of the hours. And by the way, there was another question whether you offer diploma, masters, and so on. No, we don't offer degrees. I repeat, we don't offer degree. We are not a traditional university. We don't offer bachelor, we don't offer master, we don't offer PhD. We can help the people, of course, to something related to postmaster, postgraduate, postdoc, and so on. So if it is something for you, if you need to get a degree, basically to get a title from a university, you need to go and register for a university. What we can offer is basically in the category of diploma, training, certified programs, and so on. And these are there are different names that the people, in most of the cases, people talking about the diploma programs and so on, or certificates. So I hope that I answered you on that. There is also another question that is here, since the question okay, someone wants to leave with the internship chances. I have a few courses to be done. So I think most of the question we already answered. That if there is any question, I just heard that somebody wanted to say something. If there is any other question, we can talk about that. Otherwise, I think we already went through most of the questions. So, Mr. Joby, there is also one more question. I assume that this is the last question. My name is President Smith. Your current time is studying in Kuwait as a design engineer. Mr. Friedens, we had a specific discussion about your case. I already reviewed your CV and I know exactly the type of experience you have. My suggestion is that Mr. Joby will organize another specific meeting for you, and then we'll talk about your specific case. There are several possibilities for you, and of course, in your case, when I should explicitly mention it, the age is not a real issue when it comes to traveling to Europe. Don't think of that as a kind of, let's say, kind of advantage or disadvantage and so on. Millennials are usually preferred because they are good in specific computer skills and all this stuff. But higher age is equivalent basically to better experience. So the people really understand that. In most of the cases, they appreciate that. But the only problem is that they want to see the real proof of that, you know, that to have evidence of that. So in most of the cases, when I take a look at your CV, the amount of the experience that you have doesn't fit with the things that you present in your CV. So if you have certain years of experience, you also need to present them in the best way. Also, you need to have some new topics so that the people consider you as a kind of up-to-date expert, not just like over the last 10 to 20 years you have done something. They want to make sure that, okay, you have done a long experience, but they want to see that are you a kind of up-to-date expert at the moment. Maybe a few new projects, again, about this kind of multidisciplinary project can help you. So certainly we will talk about that, and we will be available to have a detailed discussion about that. Mr. Joby should arrange a meeting for you. I think
thanks everyone for joining us, and we will stay in touch with each other. If something need to be done in the later stage, we are available.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye.